Blast me to Bermuda! It's time for episode 4 of the Mad Merlin's Warhammer 40,000 Imperium journey. Part 1, Lore and Building. Hello and welcome back to the Mad Merlin's Imperium journey. Today we are going to go through issue 4, which comes with the Skorpekh Destroyers. So, we also get 3 50mm bases and 1 28mm base to build our 3 Skorpekh Destroyers and plasma site. So, I'll have a quick look through. As you can see, our 3 models are spread nicely over this one sprue. We have the parts for our plasma site there, and pretty much all the components are in a pretty close bundle for each model, so it makes it easier to find and build. So there. Right, let's dive into the issue. So, issue 4 with 4 models and a new paint being Leadbelcher. So, in this book we have Scorpekh Destroyers attack, painting with Leadbelcher, and our biggest battle yet, because we also get a brand new game mat, as I showed off in the unboxing. So, first page is the Elite, page 5, Scorpekh Destroyers. Our brand new lore about learning how Space Marines are created, and all about the travel through the warp. We learn to build and paint our Scorpekh Destroyers, as well as use Leadbelcher on our previous models. And finally, we have the new playthrough, Destroyers Awaken. So, Scorpekh Destroyers, deranged Necron killers. So here we have a little bit of detail about the Necron Destroyers. Shows how they have decayed through their sleep and become insane and wanting to eradicate all living life. They have hyperphase threshers. They have nihilistic degradations. They have the scorpion limbs, which propels them across the battlefield. Then we got the plasma site, which has sentient energy and attacks with its proboscis. So, on the back of the battle record, we have named these as the Death Heralds. And their gifts are improved sensor systems, so they can see you better across the battlefield. They have a decay, which is corrupted reanimations, so the legs and arms might not exactly go where they're meant to go. And our little plasma site gives them a speed enhancing mania. So we've got a nice space to keep tally of all the models that we destroy with our Necron Scorpekh Destroyers. And we also have a space to record any exemplary battles. So our first bit of lore is the creation of a Space Marine. Creating a Space Marine is no easy task. Every one of these superhuman warriors is a product of agonizing surgery, psycho-indoctrination, and decades of brutal training. It is a process so horrific that few survive. Such are the sacrifices mankind must make to defend the Imperium. So we go into a little bit of detail about how the Space Marines are created, about all the different organs, how an aspirant is chosen from youth, and is often trained of the chapter for decades before becoming a full battle brother. How the various chapters go about finding aspirants. The Primarchs. So thousands of years ago, the Emperor used advanced genetic engineering to create the Primarchs, his superhuman gene children. The gene seed of all Space Marine chapters can be traced back to one of these legendary figures. And at the bottom we have a little bit of information about Space Marine apothecaries, who are the caretakers and medics within the Space Marine legions. Or chapters, should I say, not legions. It is an apothecary's job to harvest the gene seed from any fallen warriors. So here we see a Crimson Fist apothecary removing the gene seed from a fallen Crimson Fist warrior. And next and last new bit of lore is the warp, destinations and demons. The warp is a dimension of pure energy that exists outside the fabric of reality, known only as the Imperium, the Imperium, and the Sea of Souls, amongst other ominous names. It is at once utterly essential to the existence of the Imperium and the most deadly threat to humanity. So the flavor text basically goes into how long ago humanity found out that the best way to travel from one end of the galaxy to the other is to jump through the warp. But in doing so, they also unleashed untold horrors upon themselves. So we go into a little bit about the Astronomican, which is the light of the Emperor, which is a beacon that helps the navigators see through the warp and follow basically a GPS from planet to planet and system to system, etc. I have a little bit of information about the denizens of the warp, the foul creatures known as demons. They often take the forms of our worst fears and nightmares. And finally, the only thing known in the galaxy that can actually stop the warp is the mysterious Blackstone, which is harvested obviously by the Necrons that have used it for millennia, and is used to reduce the effects of warp and even can banish demons. And next we have how to build our Skorpekh Destroyers. So I'll grab my tools and we'll get right on with it. So for this build tutorial, we will build the first Skorpekh Destroyer, which is components 1 through to 8. So let's grab our clippers, remove our safety cap, and let's find part 1. So part 1 is right at the top here, his spine. So I'll cut out first there, then there, and finally the bottom part. Next we need part 2 and 3. So part 2 is his back and right arm, and part 3 is his hip joint. So again, just carefully go around each component until it's come free from the frame. There we go. So we have our first 3 components. So we can clean these up. So we need to obviously remove our sprue tabs. And of course, look for any mold lines. There's only a few on this one component, notably going down along the back here, and on the top of each of these spine ridges. But we can see a few more along the pistons, and also on these actual hip joints where my thumbnail is just there. So make sure we clean these up nicely so that all components will fit flush together. And be careful like that to not do what I just done, which is put too much pressure on a component because it may break. So gently work away at that nub with our mold line tool until it's flat. Hopefully that will re-strengthen once we put some glue on it. And finally we have our back torso with his right arm. So there are a couple of mold lines just running along his shoulder blades. And also down his arm. There we go. Now to assemble these components, we first take part 1 and push the long peg through the hole on the back of part 2 until it sits flush. Then we take part 3, making sure that the smooth flat side is facing outwards, and if you look carefully there's a slight bend to it, so you want that bend going backwards. We then push this over part 1 and it will rest on that little notch there, and it will be held in place once we put on the next two pieces, which are parts 4 and 5. So part 5 is the front torso there, and part 4 is his head and his left arm. So cut away the head first because we don't want that to snap and break off. And on here we'll cut top first, followed by the 2 at the side. So just carefully work at those sprue tabs. And any mold lines until we've cleaned up our models and they're ready to be pushed together. There we go. Now, in order to get these components to fit together properly, we need to do a little bit of twisting. So, if you hold your head and arm like so, take this little piece just over the shoulder here, thread it through, and then twist until the components line up, like so. It'd be a good idea to do this as a test fit before you apply any glue, because otherwise you might accidentally line up incorrectly and you'll have a corrupted reanimation, shall we say. So now we just put parts 4 and 5 onto the peg on part 1. Which solidifies all those components together. We can set that off to the side while we clip out our last 3 components, which are 6, 7 and 8, his legs. So, as I said earlier on the overview, all the components for one Scorpekh Destroyer tend to be pretty close together. So we've got 6, 7 and 8 all together there. So we'll just start working our way around. Till we have all our components free from the frame. And then we can begin the cleaning up process. So, with part 6, we push that into the hole on the back of the hip, like so. Part 8 goes on the right hip, and part 7 is the left leg, which goes on the left hip. Next, we just have to take those little two pegs on the bottom and push them into the holes on the base. And we have one of our 3 Skorpekh Destroyers already built. I'll just quickly build the next 2 and the plasma sight off camera, and we'll get a nice little gallery view of all of them completed. Back shortly. Just popping back in as I'm building the last Necron Destroyer. This is component 13, which is a very delicate and fiddly component. You want to take extra care when handling this one. The arm joint will go into the back of part 14, the main weapon, while this little hook joint here, will go into the hole on the back of the neck. So I have to do a twisting motion like before, hooking that in there like that, and we push in. So it holds nice and steady once it's in. Then we need to hook that through there, lining up, and we push the peg on the end of the arm into the hole there. So there, that's hopefully a little bit clearer, just in case the instructions aren't overly clear. Though there is a nice step-by-step guide on how to do it within the issue. Okay, on to finish building these guys. See you shortly. So there we have issue 4 built, our 3 Scorpio Destroyers and the plasma sight. Take some extra care of the plasma sight as his legs are fairly delicate and there's some hard to reach areas, as well as some rather tough areas, especially if you are using mold line remover. A sharp knife might be a better suggestion, so ask adult help if needed. So that's everything for this video. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, there are an affiliate link and a buy me a coffee link in the description down below. And I'll see you next time for our painting and playing video. Thank you, and I'll see you next time for more mad content. Goodbye.